Ceremony, Rare Record Lot, Test Press, Ruin Violence, Still Nothing, Hardcore, HXC. How much do you think that the Ceremony Rare Record Lot, the starting bid is on eBay?
$200.
10x that and more. $2,995.
Woo!
Welcome to Noise Floor, a podcast about music and our favorite artists' discographies. I'm Troy Sennett.
And I'm Matt Kistler.
And today, our Death Cab for Cutie series continues with their 2018 album, Thank You for Today. What is this, album 9, 10? I keep forgetting to actually note this.
I think it's 10 for us, 9 for people who don't consider you can play these songs with chords an album.
Yeah, either way, we're 20-ish years into the Death Cab for Cutie career. This came out on Atlantic Records, like all of their recent releases at this time. Once again, produced and mixed by Rich Costi. And this album is, I feel like we've always talked about this, response to the, one album is a response to the album before.
Yep.
Whereas Kintsugi is the LA record, this is the Seattle record. And
100%.
Yeah, this is about returning home. It's an album about looking back on the place where you lived and grew up and spent a lot of your life and have all these memories and seeing how it's changed and lamenting that and sort of facing that change head on. And I really, really like this record. I don't think it's perfect. It's not my favorite Death Cab record, but there is a lot to dig into in it and a lot that I really love about it that I think I liked it when it came out, and it's just revealed itself more and more to me over the years, and especially this week listening to it again. Matt, what are your thoughts on Thank You for Today?
So I think I had never actually listened to this record.
Oh, really?
I thought I had. And I went into it and I was like, these songs sound familiar insofar that they're Death Cab songs, but I think pretty sure my first time hearing 60 and Punk was at the show the other week, which was a great way to experience it for the first time. It's possible that I listened to it when it came out and it just didn't make an impression. Again, like very much in the thick of trying to consume as much music as possible and like not really being that conscious of it in 2018. So shrug, I guess. Either way, I really like this record. I think there's some missteps in it, but like that's going to happen with most bands, especially at this point in their career. I think the highlights far outweigh the lowlights for me by like country miles for sure. But we'll talk a little bit later about the fact that this album has more remixes than it has songs.
Yeah.
But it seems like a weird one to spawn that much in terms of remixes. I don't know. Like, I know Codes and Keys had a specific focus on that with Keys and Codes, but like, yeah, I don't know. Just having 12 remixes for a 10-song album, most of them are the same 3 songs also, just seems really odd to me. But that's kind of neither here nor there. The album on its own, pretty good. I like it a lot. I relate pretty heavily with a lot of the themes on this record, as I have thus far, but like we'll talk about it when we get to Gold Rush, but it's interesting to watch your city change.
So along with the sort of the thematic, like, the city stuff on this album, we're about at the point in Death Cab's career where, as we go through this like retrospective series on our podcast, that they're about the age you are right now when they're making this record, maybe a tad older.
Yeah, I think Ben's a little over 40 at this point.
Yeah, and so that was like me with Kintsugi last week, is I feel like Kintsugi they're about the age that I am now. And do you feel like you find these records more resonant, and maybe this goes for any band that we've covered, as they're getting to the age that you are right now? Like, do you feel that, like, you feel the themes hit more?
I definitely do feel that way. And like, obviously we've talked a lot about Death Cab and specifically Ben's kind of relationship with aging and how it's changed over the course of the career of the band. And like, yeah, I feel like I see that growth happening, and I know I felt all these feelings before and still do to some degree. But like, yeah, I think that part of the reason that this album hits the way it does now is because that is where I'm at in my life too.
Yeah. And I mean, we've kind of buried the lead a little bit. The big thing in the context of Death Cab's career with this record, of course, is that it's the first record that Chris Walla was not at all involved in. He leaves after the production of Kintsugi, but before the tour. They replace him with Dave Depper and Zach Ray, guitarist and keyboardist, respectively. And they are touring members for a few years. And by the time they get around to actually making this record, those two guys have become full-time members of the band. And they talk about in the interviews some like trepidation about going into a record with new people for the first time outside of like Costi producing Kintsugi, the first time with new band members since Transatlanticism, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was when Jason joined, and that was the last lineup change before this.
Yeah, and so they don't know how it's going to feel in the room. They know how it feels to play with these guys, but they don't know how it's going to feel to write with them, how they're going to take criticism, how those parts are going to work their way into the albums. And so Ben responds to that by writing and like arranging the demos more fully than he ever has before, and coming in with more sort of complete visions of songs and feeling like he's the creative leader of the band. And they are very positive about their memories of making this record. So I think it kind of all worked out, is the impression that I get. Like, it seems like they had a good time with Costi again. They mean the album title is like a sort of, it comes from a just like encouraging phrase. It's just, thank you for today, they would say at the end of every session. There's a melancholy to this album that feels like it is, I'm not going to say that it like undercuts that, but I feel like those two things kind of go together, and that this is an album about, to me at least, largely about the past, largely about, it feels like kind of one long reverie or daydream. And so I feel like that happiness and mixed with the sort of sadness and acknowledgement of the changing place around you all go hand in hand, and is what makes this record resonate to me the way that it does.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And like, you know, we talked about this before. Like they specifically, or at least Ben specifically, parallels the experience of doing this album with the experience of making Transatlanticism, an album that he acknowledges is very good and was made at a, like, you know, in a way where the entire band was, you know, doing well throughout the whole process in a like way that like didn't happen anytime really before or since.
Yeah, I like that he's so big on the, like, artists should be happy, and they should be, that when artists are happy, they make better music.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I love that he's very vocal about that, because that is not a thing that enough people talk about.
Yeah. I feel like we should talk a little bit about the Seattle aspect of this album.
We should. Yeah.
We touched on it a little bit, but Ben talks about while writing this record that he starts writing it in late 2016, early 2017, which is the beginning of the Trump era, and he talks about having heard a lot of records that come out that were written around then and came out in like early 2018 or whatever, just because there's such a long turnaround time for making a record on a big label and stuff like that. And he just felt like a lot of the overtly political records that were written around the 2016 election just felt hollow, and felt like artists who felt like they needed to say something in their lyrics just to prove that they were on the right side of things. And I mean, we talked about $1 Million Loan as a very political song, an overtly political song that we both, I think, really like. But Ben talks about in one of these interviews that I was reading that he very much wanted to not write a political record, in part to stay out of that kind of trap that I was talking about that a lot of artists fell into, and also to give people a bit of a respite from the world, like the outside world, and to like make a Death Cab record that is introspective and personal and can kind of meet people where they are without, not as an escapist album, but as just like here's a bit of a balm. We know the world is insane right now.
Yeah, no, like it's kind of thinking on, you know, how that did affect a lot of people who were making music around the time. Like, yeah, like you don't want to come out with some underbaked, not even underbaked. Like, it could be as sincere and like as well thought out as you want it to be. Like, ultimately, if you're trying to be timely with something like that, like something's gonna fall short. Unless you're like Billy Bragg, which is like the comparison that Ben always draws out. He's like, yeah, if Billy Bragg has something to say about Trump, I'll sit down and listen. But like, nobody needs to hear what I have to say. Like, I'm not quiet about how I feel about this stuff, and not in like a Tate McRae way. not to get too contemporaneous about it.
I don't honestly know who that is, and I'm happy about that. I know that they headlined Lollapalooza, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, the headline I've been seeing recently is her saying, I think it's obvious what kind of person I am. And I'm like, oh, so you aren't going to actually say anything about your political beliefs because they're bad. Okay, cool. Got it.
Okay. But so all that is aside, like, Ben's whole thing with this record is he's writing about sort of in these introspective songs about the world around him, moving back to Seattle. But a lot of this, there's like a huge asterisk to me in all this, because a lot of this record is about the tech boom and the way that gentrification and the Microsoft and Amazon and the other big tech companies have changed the landscape of Seattle in a way that forced out artists and forced out creative communities. And I'm like, I hear him talk about all this, and I think he's it's what he's talking about, what he wrote about. I think that these songs are all very affecting in that way. But I'm just like, LOL, it's not a political album. All that stuff is very political, but it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's political in a way that emphasizes the personal. And I think that is why this record works so well for me, because it's about a place, and it's about a time, and it's about the way that you, as a person who has been a part of a community, experience change in a community. And I feel like I have not heard that many records that delve this deeply into a sense of place and that community, outside of the Weaker Thans, one of my all-time favorite bands. And so, and I mean, is this album as good as any of the 4 Weaker Thans records to me? Probably not quite, but I see a lot of commonality in the way that Ben Gibbard and John K. Samson sort of look at the world and write about these things.
Yeah, I definitely think the shared DNA is there, and I didn't think of that comp, but that's a really good pull.
I mean, just listen to One Great City. It's all there.
Of course. Yeah, fair enough.
What do you think of the album art for this record?
I honestly kind of like it. It stands out a lot in the discography. I guess like they don't really have like an aesthetic.
No, they work with different artists, and they try to do something that fits each record.
Yeah. I think I like the artwork on its own. I love the packaging on the vinyl though, which is where we're going with this.
Yeah, I'm holding it right now, and I feel like if you're a Death Cab fan and you haven't held a physical copy of this album, it's worth seeking one out. So because the artwork is like, or the vinyl sleeve is a just very like stark gray flat sort of window, basically, with a die cut in the middle of it, and the album, the album title is on this glossy insert that slides out, and it's like got clouds printed on it, and I get this feeling in it that it's like looking through a window into a brighter, happier past, is the way that I interpret this album art. And
I think that's fair.
Yeah, and they use this kind of like square with a very striking visual, for all of the like singles and remixes and stuff like that. It's the aesthetic through line of all of this era of the band, and it's simple, but I think it works really well, and I feel like it captures the mood of the record in a way that is, I think it's very nice.
Definitely agree. Yeah, it's great. I also love I love anything that's like kind of silver embossed, which is like what all the text on the outer sleeve is there. I need to own a copy of this record.
We're kind of back to like early Death Cab they were always doing die cuts or like weird stuff with the album, with the physical copies, and it's nice to be back to that.
So that's a thing that also kind of surrounds the way that the band talks about this record, is like trying to return to the things that worked about early Death Cab, for lack of a better way of putting it. Like Ben's like, yeah, I kind of want to get back to like just like, guitar interplay and, writing lyrics that are, personal, but also like immediately comprehensible, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know if it's quite that.
Yeah, I would say I read all this stuff in the interviews, and I like, to you, do they succeed at that? Does this feel like an early Death Cab record to you?
It doesn't feel like an early Death Cab record to me. There are songs on here where I'm like, oh yeah, this riff is very Death Cab. The way this intro is constructed is very Death Cab. Without being able to like pinpoint exactly what that is, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a Death Cab riff. But that's only like 4 songs on this record. Everything else like kind of has this very distinct vibe that kind of belongs to Thank You for Today alone. And I like that. And I think that's part of why it works.
I find this record to be cohesive almost to a fault in terms of like style and sound. I think this is a band that has learned to be really patient with their arrangements and with the way that they structure songs, and they feel like, I think rightfully, that they have the trust of listeners to stick with them through like vibing with a part for a while, or letting something kind of live in the space that it's in and building and developing. And there are times on this record that I think they go a little too far into that. It's not that the songs are like too long or indulgent. There's nothing that's 8 minutes long or anything on this album. But I just think that like song to song, it doesn't feel like there's maybe quite enough variation to me. And when that variation happens, I find it really striking and exciting. But it is kind of a down-tempo record, and it is kind of, I feel like they're in a mode for the entire time that I wish they would change up just a little bit more. And despite that, like I said, I really, really like this record. I feel like I'm reading a lot of the reviews. A lot of the things that I like about it are things that that other critics did not like about it, whether that's the lyrics, the introspection, the stuff about aging, whatever it is. And the things that I bump up against are some of the things that critics did like about it, which is that they found it musically adventurous. I'm not sure I 100% agree, but I don't know. It is an interesting one to look back on, what, 8 years removed from it, and 2 more Death Cab albums in the past.
Yeah. Something that I kept like seeing in reviews and like kind of like features and stuff was how this record has like an experimental bent, and I'm like, I don't like. There's a weird synth sometimes, but that's not what experimental music is.
Codes and Keys is the experimental one. Whether or not you believe those experiments worked, like this is something. This feels like a band playing largely live together, which is, I think, cool. I always like when Death Cab does that, and I think they are. It doesn't sound like any other Death Cab record exactly.
No,
but it sounds like Death Cab, and so I think that's a good thing. I think bands should be adventurous and try like slightly different takes on their sound and stuff like that, even if it doesn't always work. We can get into the songs, and I can talk about the parts that don't totally work for me.
Let's do it.
This album opens with I Dreamt We Spoke Again. This was the second single from the album, a real ethereal, dreamy opener, a thing they have liked to do a fair bit. And this is about kind of the experience of having a dream or a reverie or whatever, and like feeling like you're talking to a person you've lost either through death or maybe a breakup. And to me, it sets up the feel of the entire record. This kind of shuffling, not quite lo-fi, but certainly low-key drum sound and guitar sound. What do you think of this as an opener?
The warbly piano.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I think to your point, this really does set up the vibe of the album, and I think therefore it really works as an opener. Thematically, like this feels like the least tied to like place, and like and Ben kind of talks about how like he specifically wrote this song to be kind of vague about like the narrator's relationship to the person that they dreamt they spoke to. Obviously, I shouldn't say obviously. I see a lot of people online talking about how they think this song is about Chris, which like whatever, man. I don't know if I believe that for a second.
Not really how I would read it either, but
no, not at all. I'm like, oh yeah, this is about somebody who has died or somebody that you have had a like falling out with that is not reconcilable. But yeah, I like the vibe of this song. I do like that it kind of sets up the record pretty well in terms of like here's a smattering of what you're gonna get kind of at the core of this record's, like you said, very cohesive sonic ideas. But yeah, I don't know. I like that the song like manages to explore, you know, the feeling of like one losing someone and then like I guess to an extent being able to talk to them in a dream, but it's also kind of addressing this or not addressing, but rather acknowledging the fact that you only have your memory of them, so you are filling in the holes with the person that you remember, and not like if it is a person who is still alive, not the person that they are now, which is
Right.
like that's kind of how I view this song a little more so than a song about somebody who is passed.
It's about the impossibility of ever having that kind of relationship or that conversation again.
Yeah.
That's what that ends. When I woke, I could not remember anything you said. And to me, that's the, that's his perspective on this relationship. It's also the perspective on the city of Seattle that he's seeing change, and on a lot of these. So much of this album is just about memories, and like you said, that even if every relationship that we have, every person that we know lives in our mind as a memory of the way that they were, whether it was hours ago or years ago. And
Right.
to me, that's just another way of summing up what I think this album is about.
Definitely, yeah.
There's a thing on the song, really through most of the song, where they're either recording 2 drum sets at the same time, or Jason is playing, did a take of cymbals and then another take of toms, and it makes for a pretty cool effect, I think.
Yeah, I feel like the drum production on this record, just in general, is really cool. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on there, and it's Jason, so he's also credited as doing some programming on this record. So
Okay.
I wonder if some of it is drum machines too.
I've noted that a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah, the snare on this song in particular is very wild.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think you're probably right about these kind of separately recorded drums. I know Jason talked on the kind of Kensuke cycle about how he kind of felt like having Rich over his shoulder was kind of like having J.K. Simmons over your shoulder if you're Miles Teller in Whiplash. I don't remember the names of any of those characters, but it doesn't matter. And I imagine that the relationship has relaxed in the time since then by this point, but I find that image very funny. But yeah, my guess is that they tried some weird stuff with the drums on this one.
Yeah. Next up is Summer Years. Kind of going back to one of the classic Ben Gibbard ideas about using the changing of seasons as a metaphor for growing up, for relationships, the way that you can't double back to your summer years. You can't ever truly be young again as much as you want to reflect on it and remember it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a common theme here, and specifically using the metaphor of summer to talk about that.
Yeah. Nick Harmer, MVP of the song, I think. That very melodic bass line.
Oh my god, yeah. The interplay between the guitars and the bass on this song is so cool.
I like this song musically a lot. I don't know that it's a big standout lyrically to me. Although I do like and I wonder where you are, if the One You're With was a compromise. I mean, that's clearly a thing that so many people have thought. It's one of those extremely relatable lyrics.
Yeah, I like that little bit. There was another one that I really liked in here. Oh yeah, a standout for me specifically because we did the Format series earlier this year. The We're Walking Lines in Parallel That Will Never Meet, and it's just as well. Very much like that line in that line in Dog Problems.
I was also thinking about, we were in the Narrow Stairs episode, we were talking about the unused songs from that session, and Parallel Lines is one of the ones that's on their whiteboard for Narrow Stairs, and I have kind of wondered if this song is maybe a remnant from those sessions.
I could totally see that,
or that lyric maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if we mentioned this up top, but Ben mentioned at some point in the interviews that he wrote just as many songs as he normally does for a record, maybe more, because he just had this kind of period of getting a lot of writing done, and then they specifically decided to cut this back even more than they would a normal album, because I think this is the only 10-song Death Cab album. And it's a little bit shorter as a result than most of their other albums. And I guess that was based on something that got said to him in 2008, which was somebody at one of the labels, I think, told him albums are too long now.
Albums were too long, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not the shortest Death Cab record. Isn't Something About Airplanes 8 or 9 songs?
Oh yeah, I guess it's 10.
I guess
it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, they specifically we want to get this on a single LP. Because they would always joke who is putting on the third side of Kintsugi. But yeah, I mean, I think that it works to this album's benefit, especially being kind of one note is too harsh, but like a pretty consistent sound throughout the record.
Sure, yeah, and we'll get into the stuff that does eventually come out later on, so that's not something we need to belabor right now.
After that is Gold Rush. This was the lead single. This is the song that is most explicitly about how the tech boom kind of reshaped Seattle. The first, maybe only Death Cab song to be built around a sample using part of Yoko Ono's Mine Train. This song is mostly known, or not mostly known, but like sort of infamous for its just repeated use of the phrase Gold Rush to sort of punctuates every single line of the song.
Yes,
what do you think of this song?
I mostly like this song. I do think the use of Gold Rush as punctuation, and by punctuation I mean, okay, we're gonna talk about the West Coast, and we're gonna use the Gold Rush as a metaphor for how tech bros have taken over this entire fucking city. But I think overall I do like it. There was a review that I read that like kind of mentioned that maybe the song wasn't specific enough. I don't know that that's necessarily true.
This is the most specific song on the album.
I know
talking about.
Yeah, I know it's kind of wild. But what I like is that like this song has like a like kind of interesting structure in that it's like tiny vignettes basically that all tie back to this theme of like, here are the things that are like I'm currently seeing change, or I have seen change in Seattle, since I moved back. One thing I don't love is the like chorus, the change, please don't change, stay the same, which like I think is a little tongue-in-cheek. I want to think it's a little tongue-in-cheek because Ben does talk in interviews about how he's like, yeah, like I'm seeing all this change, but like it is gentrification in general is like the tracks for it are kind of laid by people like artists and writers and et cetera,
and not even
cetera.
Intentionally.
Almost never intentionally, unless you're like a really rich artist somehow. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Like ultimately, like people like Ben Gibbard settling into X neighborhood in Seattle or just Seattle in general kind of lays the tracks for things like this to happen. And he kind of talks about how he's like, yeah, like the Seattle I knew when I was younger is not the Seattle that my parents knew, is not the Seattle that their parents knew, all the way down the line. This is like a constantly changing process. But that said, the end point we've reached as of right now does suck pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of agree about the chorus. But at the same time, I think it functions to me as just an acknowledgement of the feeling, as opposed to like I actually am trying to make I am believing that things. It's not a belief that things will never change. It's an acknowledgement of the feeling that things are changing around you. And that's
sure.
One of the ways of working through that feeling is to just is to recognize that you want things to not change. But then there's other lines in the song that feel like they are. Working through that in different ways. The sifting through these wreckage piles, through the rubble of bricks and wires, looking for something I'll never find. Like there's acknowledgement in that.
The lines immediately before that, I think, are also very much a part of that kind of read on the song.
Yeah, I mean that's the best lines in the song. I've ascribed these monuments a false sense of permanence. I've placed faith in geography to hold you in my memory, and
exactly,
it's the sense of futility at resisting the change, even though you want to, and the ghost motif continues from the first song. Like, all our ghosts get swept away. It didn't used to be this way. I genuinely really love this song. The Gold Rush repeated thing does not bother me one bit. It's like I said, it just reminds me so much of the way that John K. Samson writes about cities, and that's always a good thing.
For sure, yeah.
The music video is just Ben walking down the street and sort of against a crowd. It's a pretty simple video, but I think it's actually kind of effective in portraying the feeling of the song.
Yeah, it is. I like that. I like the kind of like I want to call it a little detail, but it's not that little of like as he walks through this crowd, like the people get progressively more obviously dressed up as if they're from the past until he ends up in that crowd of people that are all just on their phones, and he's like kind of being suffocated by it.
Yeah, there's like more people on their phones as it goes along, and it's a very simple idea. music, again, we're very far from the lavish videos of the first couple Atlantic albums, but it works. After that is Your Hurricane. Another, again, at this point in this record, I'm like, oh, this mid-tempo sort of shuffly, sort of vibey thing is just, this is what the record sounds like. And that's not to take away from what I think is like a pretty good song about the sort of determination not to be wrecked by a person who won't take responsibility for their own actions. But this is the point of the album where I start thinking, like, not getting worried, but I'm like, oh, they found a thing and they're just going to do the thing for the whole album, aren't they?
Yeah, I can totally see that. I do kind of like the structure of this song, where there's like not really a chorus, but there's like one repeated part that's like kind of asymmetrically placed in the song.
Yeah, I mean that's an old school Death Cab idea.
That's the thing is like this when the band talks about like kind of wanting to harken back to stuff about old Death Cab that like works for them. This is one of the songs where I do feel that a little bit. I don't know that it makes it a standout by any means though.
Yeah. You know what's funny is like I went back and I read through the chorus.fm thread for this album, or at least chunks of it, and a lot of the songs, like the consensus in that thread at the time seemed to be like this song and Summer Years were like the favorites, and those are kind of it's the other songs in the album that stand out a lot more for me. I just thought that was funny.
Yeah, no, definitely agree with you on that for sure.
I don't know. I think this is again, it's take any of these first four songs and you get a good idea of what they're doing on this record, and that they do it pretty well. I don't want to disparage the song too much. I like it. I just don't feel like it stands out in the way that say Gold Rush does.
For sure, yeah.
After that is When We Drive, a song that Ben specifically called out as described as the spiritual sequel to Passenger Seat. It's got this like quiet but like pulsating drum beat that's going on, very washy synths and picked guitars. What do you think of When We Drive?
I like this one. I definitely did clock this is like Passenger Seat except the narrator's driving this time, which I do like. I definitely like the like specific image of the way your suntans on only one side, like that I was like, oh man, that's a really like. That's such a common experience for people who like do drive a lot in the summer. But it's such a like distinct image. I really like it.
Can I offer an alternate reading of this song?
Sure.
To me, this is the song that's about Death Cab for Cutie as a band. Like,
okay,
this is a song about being on tour, and this is a song about feeling like the only thing that you are meant to do is to travel and play music.
Be on the road for 8 hours to play an hour at a gig. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I know, I'm sure that Ben's reading or Ben's explanation of it makes sense, and there's a romantic read to the song, but I totally hear this as we're looking back at being 20 years into this as a band and looking back at our early years in the van, and I don't know, that's what I read into the song.
Yeah, I mean specifically like the kind of refrain of I can't expect you to be honest or to be faithful every day until the end, but I need you to always be a friend. Need you to be always a friend.
That kind of
really
awkward construction.
This is a pet peeve that I have with lyric writing is like if you have to fully eschew the normal way you would say it in order to make it rhyme, like maybe give it like one more edit. I know Ben's a 2-edit guy based on that interview that he did with Jim, but yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that's the only like thing that I really take issue with in this song.
Yeah, I definitely noted that too. But yeah, after this, Autumn Love. This was also a single. It's the third single from the album. This is, once again, the seasons are turning, and Ben joked in an interview that he has like used all the seasons at this point. I can't remember if he goes back to that well again on the next couple records, but it really is all over this one. This is a song that feels to me like it's about giving yourself over to something unknown and new. Particularly, I mean, this is such a middle-aged song because it is, summer is the youth, autumn is you're getting older in the middle age, I guess, and then winter is old age, like we talked about on multiple other songs in their discography. I like this song quite a bit. I don't really know what to make of some of the lyrics, like the whole idea that this autumn love is not enough. Is this like a bitter middle-aged song, or is this a happy, or not happy, but like, you know what I mean? Like, what is the emotion you get from this one?
That is something that I really struggled with, was like it feels like the chorus is trying to be the central idea of this song, even though it's literally 7 words total. If you don't count the repeated O's as more than one word. Yeah, because like, I don't know, like the first verse we have this like kind of like, we specifically like do this nautical theme, which like port city, I get it, like that's how it works. And then we like get on the road in the second verse. But yeah, I don't know if I understand how the chorus is like trying to tie all that together. Like, yeah, to your point, like, is it bitter? Is it like,
I mean,
is it acceptance? Like, I don't know. Like, what is it not enough of?
I kind of read this song. So I don't think Ben Gibbard has children, but I actually don't know.
But I don't either.
a thing as a parent that you go through is just like, more like, no matter how much you love your children, and you go through this mourning period of like, you're literally mourning the life that you had before children and the freedom that you had, and like every parent goes through this. It's not, there's no shame in it. It's just a thing. And to me, I feel some of that, like, especially what's the lyric, if there's no beacon tonight to guide me, I'll finally break the shackles of direction and let the headlights lead me anywhere they want to go. Like, I feel like he's wrestling with this idea of once having had a certain kind of freedom and wanting it back, but also being like uncertain about it. And I just sense some of that same mourning that I felt in my own life in this song, whether or not it's specifically about the idea of becoming a parent or not. Maybe it's just a middle-aged thing.
I think you might be onto something there, in that, like, it might just be that, like, you are trying to cope with this feeling that you are having due to age, due to a loss of a particular kind of freedom for any number of reasons that come with age. You have to cope with that in some way, shape, or form, and like what you end up coming up with might not be enough. Like, it might be, like, if we're doing like Autumn Love as like a literal romantic thing, like that might be like trying to rely on a partner to make you feel better about what's going on in your life, and like recognizing that, like, one, that's not really their job, and two, like that's ultimately not going to solve the problem,
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I do feel like I have a hard time getting a full read on the song. But I will say that I think that I don't know, I think it's a good song.
I think it is good, yeah.
After that is Northern Lights, one of the more upbeat songs on the album, with one of the first like full-on guest vocal features on a Death Cab record with Lauren Mayberry from Churches.
Yeah,
she rocks. I really, really like her part in this song. This is, I feel like, one of the more specific memory songs on this album, where I think it just truly is just picking out telling a very specific story about a night out on the Dyes Inlet, I believe is what it's called.
Yeah.
The water in Seattle, where you can go out and seeing the Northern Lights, and just kind of going through this memory and everything that it's meant.
Must be really cool to be able to see the Northern Lights so easily.
Yeah, we get it once every like 30 years here in Illinois or something.
Basically, yep. And I missed it last time that it happened.
Same.
So, whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this song, honestly. I know that this band has a deep love for The Cure, and I feel like it really shows on this song sonically.
Yeah.
Dave Depper talks about how this was like a very hard song to get right for them. And he specifically cites the like, yeah, Ben brought in this demo that like felt like really fully fleshed out. And then we started working on it, and then we just felt like we had like the guitar wasn't right, or like this vocal line wasn't right. And like we basically re-recorded this song once every couple of weeks for a while, until it finally got to the point where it ends up, which I think is really great.
Once again, release all this stuff. I want to hear these different versions of the songs.
For real. Come on.
Yeah, again, bands that get further into their careers like this, they tend to release the demos less often, and and then they talk about them, and I just get more interested.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I think the song kind of rules for all the previously stated reasons. Cure vibes, really nice specific imagery about a very specific like day in the life. Lauren Mayberry, great combo.
Yeah. After that is You Moved Away. a song that is dedicated to from what I've read about this, a Seattle eccentric named Derek Erdman,
Yep.
who was kind of they describe him in this one article as a lovably anarchic presence in the Seattle art scene. There are people like this in every scene. I can name 3 of them just in Chicago alone or in Bloomington. And
Right.
if you're the kind of person who went to a lot of shows or played open mics, or you just run into people like this, and they're always just wonderful to talk to, and all weird and eccentric in their own fun ways, and they're often really cool, like outsider artists, and this is just this guy that Ben, he said he wasn't like super close to but knew, and would walk by his house all the time and see all his art up, and just would get this like comfort from knowing that he was just there. And Erdman moves back to Chicago, where he was born, and Ben sort of takes that as this like, oh, this is kind of the I really feel like the city has changed irrevocably at this point when this guy isn't here anymore. And the whole song is just about the sort of going through the details of moving away, and this very kind of the tedium, the small tasks you have to do, once again in a very John K. Samson way. And I find this song really, really powerful.
I do too. It is. I've obviously had, I've been around for nearly 40 years now. I've had a lot of friends move on from wherever I am. I've moved on from several places. But like in my adult life, it's so, the experience of like watching somebody move away is like so conflicting, because like I know you're doing this for like presumably good reasons. I know that like you're gonna have a great life wherever you end up. And if it's not that right away, you'll figure it out. And I feel like I can't tell you how much it fucking sucks.
Yep.
Unless I'm very drunk, apparently, in the fiction of this song.
Well, that's my favorite part of the song, is that all your friends got drunk and one by one begged you to stay. When you moved away, they all felt irrationally betrayed. Like, I know that feeling, and that's kind of my, like, the way that he, like, it was not this person's responsibility to carry the Seattle art scene on his shoulders. And I think, and like Ben is acknowledging that while also saying like, you still meant a ton to this place, and it's not going to be the same without you. And again, having all those feelings kind of mixed up together is what it makes this album feel so honest to me, because I think a lot of the songs have or the album as a whole, comparing this to something like to Gold Rush, that's like grand in scope and then can also be so small in scope, and have those things have like equal meaning, it's good construction of good building of theme.
Yeah, 100%. I really love how those two songs do contrast around the exact same thing, basically.
Yeah, it's a great one. This is, I would say, my second favorite song on the album, probably.
I think I might agree with you on that. I'm also going to send you Derek Erdman's website because he has one. He's still in Chicago. And
cool.
One of his most recent art projects is Canned Fancy Jimothy and Oil. Apparently,
sick.
Yep, good shit. I'll probably post that in the social media post for this week.
That's very cool. All right. Then we go from one of my favorite songs on the album to what is my least favorite song on the album, Near/Far. This is the only, to me, like real true misstep. I just kind of don't like the song at all. I don't really like the sort of repetitiveness of the chorus. I don't really find a lot of I guess my read on it is it's about like being close to someone who is unreliable or kind of unable to get their life together. But I just don't find it to be too tied to the theme of the album or really work for me as a song. I don't know. Do you have a more positive take on it?
Not really. Like, I don't dislike this song. The thing that I kind of struggle with is that like you said, it's not like really thematically tied to the rest of the album. If anything, it's tied to transatlanticism. And we've heard this theme of physical closeness and emotional distance be done magnitudes better than it is here before. So like I don't really know why we needed this, and like presumably that's because this song is about somebody from Seattle, probably, question mark, I'm not sure. But like, yeah, it just doesn't feel like it belongs. It feels, you can kind of feel the formula of the song. For, you know,
Yeah.
I don't have a good way of explaining that, but like it feels like this song was like not created in a lab, but like maybe a little created in a lab.
Well,
I don't know.
I also the comp that I had was that it kind of, it's in the same spot on the album and feel like it serves the same purpose as Pity and Fear on Narrow Stairs.
Okay.
This sort of like a little bit jammier, a little bit louder maybe than some of the rest of the record, and to be like the kind of vibe track to sort of get you to the closer. Problem is, I like the closer so much that I never want to listen to Near Far in order to get there.
Yeah, as much as we love talking on this show about albums, boy howdy have I listened to this song more times than literally anything else on this record.
Yeah, I assume you don't have anything else.
The last few days alone. No, I have nothing else to say about Near Far. Can we
Okay.
please talk about 60 and Punk?
Yes. This is my probably my favorite Death Cab song. This is I mean, I think I may have said that about a few songs over the course of this series so far, but like I think I said Crooked
I feel like
Teeth
you
was my
usually say
favorite.
top 3.
Yeah.
I don't think you've ever said favorite. Dead.
I think
like,
actually
straight
no.
ahead.
I know I said Crooked Teeth was my favorite. I think that's probably true, but this is a real
That's right.
contender.
Okay, fair
it's
enough.
a piano ballad closer about, I mean, Ben has never specifically said this, but everything lines up that this is about REM guitarist Peter Buck.
Yeah.
But it's also about Ben Gibbard himself. Like it's obviously a song of self-reflection as well as an ode to, you know, another person who was very important to him. I feel like it's also Ben could kind of see this as a path not taken in his own life. But it's a song about hero worship, a song about seeing a person that you idolize sort of be consumed by alcoholism and sort of getting jaded with their fame and the industry and the way the trends are changing and the world is changing. And God, I don't know. This song is just immaculate.
Yeah, it really is. Like, and like, it stands on its own lyrically. Like, you could put a lot of other things around this, and it would still be a great song. But just like, I feel like everything just comes together here. Like, we're kind of back to that warbly piano, like that we established on "I Dreamt We Spoke Again," and like that's contrasted with like most of these songs, like Ben's had like some kind of like vocal effect going on or like some kind of like vocal doubling that, you know, makes it sound chorusy. Like this is we've had this experience with other songs too, where it's like there's a contrasting like instrumental element and then it's just Ben. And that works so well here. And obviously like the band kicks in you know, during the chorus, and like when the drums hit, that does something to me, and I can't quite explain it. But like on top of that, there's also these like kind of unsettling like tape synth things kind of buried in the mix. Like it's clearly a synth, but it sounds like it's being manipulated on tape because it's like kind of like, you know, speeding down and slowing up at like irregular intervals.
It is,
and like,
dare I say, Chris Walla-esque production.
It you might go so far as to say this is something Chris Walla would do. Yeah, God. But yeah, I don't know that I have much to add about like the themes of this song. Just that like I feel this song in my soul so hard, even though I am nowhere near 60 yet. Everything about this, I'm like, oh my God, like I feel like I understand the kind of person that this song is about. I feel like I have felt this way about myself in the past. I feel like I worry about the future in ways like this, and it hits every single time.
Yeah, well, so I've talked a lot about this album being a very backwards looking album. It's about memory and about the thinking about the way that places used to be. And this song is just in many ways very forward looking. I mean, it's Ben looking back on his sort of relationship from afar, and also like, you know, and also like meeting, I'm just going to assume Peter Buck is who this is actually about, but, you know, meeting him at one point. And so there's some looking back on this, but I think There's Nothing Righteous Being 60 and a Punk is both you know, it's about Peter Buck, but it's about Ben thinking about his own future and his own place in the world. And it is like a midlife crisis all summed up in one song. You know, he's a superhero growing bored with no one to save anymore is the sort of the image that is the last line in the song, last line in the album, the defining image of the song. When you and just the idea that, like, you know, if the world changes so much, is the thing that you do, the thing that you're good at, the thing that I've built my entire life around, what if there's no value to it anymore? And
right,
you know, and just
or what if it goes away via powers beyond my control? Yeah,
right. Like the music industry is a fickle place. Trends change all the time. There's no guarantee that your next record's going to hit. I mean, by this point in their career, they know that they're probably not going to have a planned style success again.
Right.
And they've settled into, I mean, Death Cab has settled into being almost the kind of ideal career, in my opinion, of like, we are a solidly, I kind of want to say like a middle class rock band at this point, where they can just keep making, you know, every few years they make a record, they're consistent, they tour, they have a really strong live show, they're good at the thing that they do. And but like, I think this song is just suffused with the acknowledgement that can all go away, and what are you left with when that's gone? And like the song doesn't have an answer to that, and that's what I like about it.
Yeah, the nice thing that is acknowledged in the interviews, though, is that the person in question, regardless of whether or not it's Peter Buck, has been sober for a while now and is doing much better.
Yeah.
So that's a happy ending that's not in the song.
And I like that Ben seems to have realized that, like, after he wrote the song. So it's not in the song. And
yeah, exactly.
And I think that makes the song so much better. And then the meta textual aspect of it, of him finding that out later and being able to talk about it in interviews, but not have it be like a button on the album makes the song better.
I don't want that at all.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought were you happier when you were poor? Goddamn.
That's that. I literally cry every time. I'm not even fucking joking.
Yeah. I mean, to me, this is clearly like the best song from these sessions. There is a song which when we talk about the Blue EP, that I think actually thematically makes a little more sense as a closer, or makes just as much sense. But like, you cannot write a song this good and not put it on the record.
Oh God, no, not at all.
Yeah. But I mean, that is the end of Thank You for Today. Again, an album with some ups and downs, but I think a really interesting, fascinating, and generally very good record.
Yeah, definitely agree. It's they're figuring it out.
Yeah. We have a number of, or I think it's a handful of B-sides, bonus tracks, stuff like that. There's a demo of Autumn Love. Did I listen to this? God, I actually can't remember.
I was not able to find this at all.
Yeah, it's out there, I'm sure.
It was a Japanese bonus track. I think a Japanese vinyl bonus track specifically. So like, one person on Reddit has it, as far as I can tell, and you have to DM them, and I was not doing that.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
So,
more something that is out there that we can talk about is the Spotify singles that they did around this time. This is just a live session, but it's worth mentioning because they cover Frightened Rabbit's My Backwards Walk. This album, I should have probably mentioned at the top, is dedicated to Scott Hutchison from Frightened Rabbit. This is an unbelievably good cover.
It is an incredibly good cover. And like, until you get to like the very end of the song, you could fool me into this thinking this was a Death Cab song if I didn't know it was a Frightened Rabbit song out the gate.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really like well rendered version of the song. But yeah, it's I know that this song was this album was like not retroactively, but like it was being written while he was still alive.
Yes.
Like he passed well after the album was finished, as far as I know, just not before it was released.
Yeah, spring of that year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we'll do a Frightened Rabbit series on this podcast someday. That song
for
rules.
Sure.
You know, check out Frightened Rabbit if you don't know them.
A band I definitely need to dive into more. So
there are a zillion remixes, as we alluded to before.
Good God.
They picked a few songs, and there's like 2 or 3 remixes of a bunch of these different songs. We don't need to go through these one by one. Are there any remixes of these that you loved? I am pretty staunchly with these still in my I don't care for the remixes thing. I will just say that some of them sound like Postal Service songs, and I think that's sweet. But
I think that's nice.
Matt, go off on the remixes that are good, because I don't know that I have much to add there.
That's the thing, is not not a lot of these stood out to me. I do love that we got a Jimmy Tamborello remix.
Yeah.
Which like is the closest thing we're gonna get to a Postal Service song at this point in our collective history. And I think that one is actually very good. It's the only remix of Summer Years, thank Christ, because every other song has at least 2 remixes, and I got so sick of listening to the same song over and over again.
I mean, we did this to ourselves, but like, I know what you mean.
We did this to ourselves, yeah, and I arranged the playlist in this order, so like I could have done myself some favors there. But I do like the Jimmy Tamborello remix of Summer Years. It's not quite like Postal Service vibes, but it's not doing that. So that's kind of a nice treat. Let's see.
What
the Tune Yards remix of When We Drive is okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What is Truco? What is the Truco remix of Gold Rush?
Dog, I don't know. It's like, okay, couple things. Every single remix of Gold Rush focuses so hard on like the whispered layer of vocals that you can barely hear in the original version. I hate that so much. And that is about the only vocal part that Truco remix uses, and I hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing I'll give it is that remix has kind of like ebbs and flows in terms of energy. It's not just like big drop and then like the loudest thing you've ever heard for 3 minutes, which is
I will
rare.
acknowledge that has dynamics.
It does have dynamics, which I will say some of these other remixes don't. They just kind of have the same energy throughout.
Yeah.
And that's a little at times. I don't know. The other big standout for me is the Alessandro Cortini remix of Northern Lights. I don't know if I like it, but it's the most different of any of these, I would say.
It feels like that one has an idea behind it, and it has an idea that I don't particularly care for, which is let's stretch the song out really long, like not quite to 1000x slowed down or whatever the meme is, but like it's very spacey.
Yeah, it is very spacey. Like it's focusing on some like really specific instruments in the song. It is stretching them out. It's like kind of like bit crushing them a little bit, adding a bunch of reverb, burying what little of the vocals that are there. Like it is, if you listen to Alessandro Cortini or you just know that he's in Nine Inch Nails, it's kind of not that far from what you'd expect, but I would much rather just listen to like some of his own work rather than this.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, in general, like I'm sure they probably like a lot of these remix artists, and it's
for sure.
It's also just content. Like they made a short album. I'm sure that Atlantic is like, can we have some more stuff to put up on Spotify?
For sure, yeah.
I think that if you're gonna do remixes like this, I think the Keys and Codes thing of let's have a curated remix record works better in my opinion. But I'm also not ever listening to these again, so it doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah, I will not be returning to any of these. Sorry to all of those involved.
But we can talk about some good songs, because in August of 2019, a year after this record came out, they released an EP called the Blue EP, this is back to kind of the early Death Cab days. We're going to do an album and then do an EP with the leftover songs, or maybe record a couple new ones. There's two of these songs are produced by Rich Costi, and I assume are from the original sessions. I don't know for sure. Two of them are produced by Peter Cadis, which I assume are from entirely separate sessions. What do you think of this EP generally? Any specific songs you want to talk about?
I kind of want to talk about all.
I kind of do too. I think
bit.
this EP is spectacular.
It's really spectacular. Like this is like I apparently just missed this entire era of Death Cab because I'd never heard of any of these. But these songs are, I think we kind of alluded to this. Like, probably don't fit the album by any means, but damn, they're really good.
Yeah. I have a very, very specific memory of being in Walgreens, like waiting in the pharmacy line when Kids in 99 came out, and like listening to that in that context. I don't know why it's so tied to that moment for me, but yeah, I was like very excited for this EP when it got announced and when it came out, and I still think it's one of the best later era Death Cab things. We can start with To the Ground, the opening track. Where was this energy on the album? Again, I like this album, but the drums that are like explosive, the melodic bass line, uh, there's lyrics about a car crash and the earth kind of reclaiming the car. I think this is wonderful imagery.
It's so good.
It's a great song.
It's so good. It's a great song. This is another one where I'm like, man, this has real big Cure energy, but like in a more bombastic way than I've already forgotten which song I said that about earlier. The one featuring Lauren Mayberry.
Yeah, but, Northern Lights. But it's got
yeah.
Kintsugi energy to me.
It does have Kintsugi energy for sure.
There's like swells that are like they're like pitch shifted in the bridge. It's almost got like a Hans Zimmer thing going on there.
Oh my, yeah, those really like drony like reverby strings that are happening like towards the end of the bridge, and then it gets really cacophonous. And then we get another like couple closing lines. It's really cool.
Yeah, this is a great song. I would say this about almost every song on this album. I would swap out Near Far and put almost any other song from this EP in that spot.
Right.
Some of them would work better than others, but I'm just, I think every song on here is worthy of the album. Especially Kids in 99. Yeah.
A song that's very specifically about the area around Bellingham.
Right. This is about a specific event in the area, about the Olympic pipeline explosion that killed 3 kids in 1999. This is like right around the time the band was forming, so I'm sure there's like a bit of a particular tie to that, but also just like being in a city and having this tragedy looming over you, and especially when you get to like the environmentalist aspects of it and everything about it. It's very reflective, very matter of fact retelling of the event. And this is Peter Kadi's production. It feels very different than a lot of what's on the album. His production style is organic in a way that I think Costy's isn't, and it lends itself really well to Death Cab in a different way than Costy's does. It
definitely does. Yeah, this song does the thing that this is going to be a weird comp. This song does the thing that I really liked about Wildlife by La Dispute, where it like we're looking at this event that like the narrator wasn't directly involved in, but then it does like tie it back to the narrator's like personal experience and like what they think about it
in the waters where we used to swim, where we thought we would be young forever. Yeah,
exactly. It's so well done in that regard. One of my favorite lines from this song is the sirens crying through the streets with choppers hovering like vultures above a meal. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's really good.
It is. I could just keep listing lines, but yeah, it's a great song. And yeah, I think this would have absolutely fit on the album. Like it's more of a downer than basically anything else on the record, but that's okay.
Yeah.
They're not above that.
Yeah. You got Man in Blue. It's kind of just very much a quieter one, a ballad. This is the only song on this record that I'm not like over the moon in love with, but I think it's still pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think I agree with you on that one.
Yeah. Then Before the Bombs, this is another Costy production. Another one with the summer. This is not. I feel like this is maybe was left off the album because it is such a political commentary. I feel like maybe a slightly naively optimistic or naively nostalgic one, depending on how you look at things. But I feel like it's a song about how love will win. I don't know.
I wrote down this song is maybe a little hippy dippy, but you know what? It's fine.
Yeah, it is. It's not as striking to me as $1 Million Loan or something like that as a political song or a protest song.
Yeah,
but it's fine. And then Blue Bloods. Blue Bloods, to me, this is the other Peter Kadi's produced song. This is the one that I feel like you could put as a closing track or is, a thematic tie to the album.
Okay, I can definitely see that.
If only
we are very specifically on the West Coast here.
Yeah, I mean, if only because I'm sure that this song is about a specific person, but I can almost read this as sort of an ode to the city itself. In a way that felt kind of, maybe not as tight as something like Gold Rush, but like, it just felt like the way that one person's relationship with the city can represent the entire city felt thematically relevant to me.
I definitely can totally see that. Just, yeah, this like we've got, I don't want to say expats because that's a very specific thing, but you know what I mean. Expats of an area coming back to talk about how, oh yeah, we've always loved it here. This is where I'm from, even though I moved to New York to make it big or whatever the hell. But I do like the I almost read this as being about a person because we got to what was the
Well, there's I watched you spinning through the Revelers like a cheap ballet. There are things that feel like they're specific to a person, but then there's stuff like I watched them argue about who loved you the best, which feels like I keep referencing John K. Samson in this, but that's kind of the I hate Winnipeg thing.
Yeah. The line I was looking for was your photographs were on the news and I was there just out of view. And I was like, are we like throwing it back to room and frame or no room and frame?
I mean, it's a similar idea, but yeah.
Similar idea, but yeah, not the same thing.
Yeah, I like this song a lot.
It's a good song.
Yeah. I like this EP a ton. It's a really good cap for this era of the band, I think.
For sure, yeah.
Feels really weird to just like, oh, this was August 2019. Then we get to the COVID era right after this.
Yep. Yeah.
Weird.
Ugh.
I don't know. Anything else about this, about the Thank You for Today time before we finish up?
No, just glad I finally have gotten on board with this era.
Yeah. This feels like an album that is like right up your alley musically. I'm glad that you finally got to it.
Yeah, me too, honestly.
Do you have a random recommendation for this week?
Yeah, this week I want to recommend a video game that is maybe almost too on brand for this podcast. It is called Wax Heads. It is basically a visual novel about working in a record store.
Okay.
It's not quite a visual novel. It has there's a lot of interaction. Basically, the core conceit of this game is you have just gotten hired at a record store in I think just outside of London is where you're supposed to be because it's like kind of a small town. And the core mechanic of the game is that somebody approaches the counter and they talk to you a little bit about like what they're looking for musically, and you have to go find an album on the shelves that matches what that person is looking for. Sometimes the ties are obvious. Sometimes it's like there's a point in the game where somebody is wearing a particular article of clothing that has a specific thing on it, and you're supposed to associate that with something that's on a record cover to decide that this is for him. It's a little convoluted at times, is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Can you go full on like Rob Gordon and try to improve their taste or just insult them?
There are times like you can do that the whole game. I think I'm not sure if there is a penalty for because there's different grades of like how well you did. I think it goes like rad is like when you got it right. Okay is when like you kind of generally got something close, and then there's like some other degree, and then sad. And there's a moment in this game, I don't know if it's too much of a spoiler, but there's like a dream sequence where you're like clearly like interacting with people who suck really bad, and like you shouldn't want to help them in the way that you normally would. And I kind of was like, for a minute I was like, maybe I just give them not what they want and like see how they react. And then it turns out the game still wants you to like role play like, oh yeah, you don't have any autonomy in this situation because you're in a dream. But anyway, like there's also this like very like there's a bunch of very sweet like little stories happening like throughout the like kind of main thrust of the plot is like this sibling rivalry thing from a like very popular dream pop band back in the day, one of the members of which is the owner of the store that you work at. And it's just like, it's not like gonna blow your mind in terms of its mechanics or its story, but it's just a very like nice thing to sit down with and like get your like cute little storylines about like small town life, being in a band and working at a record shop and stuff like that. And I think it's it's like $10 on the Switch store or the PS or the PlayStation store. If you're at all interested in something like this, I'd say it's worth doing. But yeah, that's Wax Heads. It came out this year. This is the first time I've played a contemporaneous video game in a long time.
Yeah.
What you got?
I'm going to recommend Day at the Fair's 2017 album, The Epilogue. Day at the Fair was a band on Drive Thru in the early mid 2000s. They sound like a band on Drive Thru in the early mid 2000s, which is to say I like them a lot.
Fair.
And their album The Rocking Chair Years is like a formative pop punk record for me. The epilogue is they broke up for quite a few years, 10 years or so, got back together, became dads in the meantime, and made this record, The Epilogue, which is one of the great get the band back together and write songs about being a parent and getting the band back together albums.
Of course.
Yeah, I love this record. I think Chris Barker is a great vocalist and a great songwriter, and this has it's really 7-8 songs. It's a short record, but it has a lot of variation in terms of like there's some pop punk stuff and there's some acoustic ballads. It's clear that it's the same people who made Rocking Chair Years, but with 10 years of maturity and songwriting growth and stuff like that. It's just one of those, I don't know, this is probably not like a turn the world upside down sort of record, but it's an important one to me. And if you're into that style of emo pop punk, it's very much worth checking out.
This is a band I have never heard of and will be checking out ASAP.
Oh, yeah.
The Epilogue is not on Tidal, though.
Is it
so I'll have
really?
to find it through some other
Okay,
means.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
out there.
the Rocking Chair Years is, but...
Yeah. So big recommendation for that one. I've been listening to it a lot this week.
Hell yeah.
Cool. We will be back next week talking about Asphalt Meadows. In the meantime, you can find us on the internet at noisefloorpodcast.com, follow us on Instagram at noisefloorpod, and send us email at noisefloorpodcast@gmail.com. And we will see you next week.
See you next week.